Bonjour de merveilleux internautes. Aujourd'hui, je vais vous parler de Murder on the Orient Express de Agatha Christie. Eh bien. Hello, wonderful people of the internet. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. So the main character of this book is one of Agatha Christie's most famous detectives, Mr. Hercule Poirot. He is French and has a killer moustache, which is displayed here on the side. Almost identical. So, the setup of this book is that Hercule Poirot is travelling back to England, where he's been called back to a case. And he's taking the Orient Express to get there. He is on the Istanbul to Calais carriage, and he's sleeping there until he can cross over to England when he arrives at Calais. And with him in the carriage are 12 different people, plus the conductor. On the second night while he's in there, a man called Mr. Edward Ratchet dies. And it's up to Mr. Poirot to figure it out. But something to, spice up the situation. The train's run into a snowdrift, so everyone is stuck inside the train and they can't go anywhere, with a murderer in their midst. So, the idea is amazing! The idea is amazing. I love the idea, and I love the book. So let's get into what I liked about the book. So number one was the characterization. There are 14 different people in this carriage with Mr. Poirot, if you count the victim, and each of them stands out. And that's really good, because it takes a great writer to be able to make such a large cast of characters distinct. And actually, there are 2 more characters if you don't count everyone in the carriage, because there's Poirot's friend and a doctor who's in a separate carriage. So that's actually now 16 characters. All of them were really, really good. So, number 2, the plot twist caught me off guard. So you can trust Agatha Christie not to write a straightforward mystery. She will be throwing plot twists here and there, everywhere in the story. You'll get one in the middle, you get one in the end, you might even get one in the first quarter of it. So it kept me on my toes, and I loved that. I didn't know what was going to happen next, and I never let myself get too comfortable in a suspicion. I might think, it's definitely this character, but I know that it's probably not that simple. So, as I've already said, the idea itself was enthralling, and that's the reason I picked up the book, as well as the fact that it's one of Christie's most famous works. I was genuinely interested to see how that situation would play out, and the panic and the distrust between people, and trying to figure out who it is. Now, I'm going to get into spoilers now, so I'm going to leave a little thing in the description, a timestamp, as to when you should skip to, if you don't want to be spoiled with this book. Now, if you don't intend to ever read this, then feel free to carry on watching, but if not, click the timestamp down there. So, the solution to this mystery was one that I did not see coming. At the beginning of the book, I thought, okay, so one of the people in this carriage has climbed onto the roof of the train, in through the window, killed this guy, and then gone back down the corridor. Or through the window, I can't remember, because obviously I carried on changing my mind throughout the story, but I was very fixed on the idea that they had climbed in through the window. And I was also fixed on the fact that it could, as the story went on, that it was either Mary Debenham and Colonel Arbuthnot, or Count and Countess Adraigny. Because both of them were a male and female couple, and if you've read the book, you'll know that on the crime scene there was evidence for a female person and a male person, so I was immediately suspicious of them two. Specifically Mary Debenham and Colonel Arbuthnot, because they had a suspicious conversation at the beginning of the story. What I did not see coming was that everyone on the train, minus Poirot, his friend, the doctor, and the victim, was the murderer. You see, they were all related to a kidnapping case a couple of years back, and the victim was the guy who kidnapped this child. So all of them decided they were going to get revenge and stab him because he did not get, persecuted in the court of law. And that solution made perfect sense once Poirot said it, but I would never have guessed it before then. Okay, so that's it for the spoiler section. And now we're going to get into things that I didn't like, which I'll admit a few, but there are a couple of things. So number one is that it dragged in the middle. The way Poirot went about solving this mystery was to interview every person in the carriage. So you'd get a different account of the events of the night when the person was killed. And, you know, it got repetitive, basically. You know, there were slight differences in the stories, and you'd be like, oh, that was a bit odd, oh, that was a bit odd, but that didn't make it any less boring for me. But luckily, it picked up pretty quickly. I think after a day's reading, it picked back up again, and it was dragging me along. And I did binge read it today. I binge read it, the final 100 pages, and I loved it. My other little bugbear was that it was a bit hard to get into at first, because you begin with Poirot on the Tourist Express, I believe, and he's going to a hotel where he then goes onto the Orient Express. So there was a bit of stuff at the beginning, it's hard to explain, but it was a bit hard to get into for me, because there was a big gap between the beginning and the murder, and it sounds a bit silly, but I wanted to get straight into the fray. I wanted to get into the solving of this case and the tensions there as quick as possible. But I understand that I finished the book, that the things at the beginning of the story, which I won't go into because this isn't a spoiler section, were important. They were important clues. But, you know, when I didn't know that, I just thought a bit, 30 pages until I get into what I bought this book for. And while I'm a patient reader, you know, this is a small book, so I was a bit concerned, you know, that it was taking too long. But that's as far as my criticisms go. So, star rating. I gave this on a website called Goodreads, which is a book review website. I have an account on there, and I put all of my book reviews on there. I gave it a 4-star rating, because I did like it. I liked it a lot, but those two little bugbears just took away that final star for me. So I know that there was a 2017 adaptation of it with Johnny Depp, Michelle Pfeiffer, Josh Gad, and my mind's gone blank. A load of other famous people in it that I'm going to be watching tonight, hopefully, fingers crossed. I've heard that it's not a very accurate adaptation, but the trailer looked good, and I tend to be okay if the adaptation's just a bit different, as long as, you know, the key things are still there. So you'll probably get a review of that film in the next video on Wednesday. I'm not sure, that's probably what I'm going to do. And there's also, I don't know when it was made, but there's another adaptation that I'm going to watch as well. I might link that in with the video on Wednesday. So that's me. Thank you so much for watching. I really recommend this book if you're new to Christie or haven't read it yet and have read a few of her books. It's good stuff, people. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you again on Wednesday. Have a good one, y'all.